All right, so as Zach talked about, I'm with Dominique Rogers, FFL Golden State, in the office today, and we're going to rip through some objections, dude. So I appreciate you making the trip over.
I'm pumped, dude. This is fun.
So this is really huge to me, and we'll probably cover more sales stuff, because if you guys have been around at all, you know that Dom has kind of been like the phone dude. So there is lots of really good phone training that you can look at all over the place. So we wanted to get into some actual sales objections, specifically telesales stuff, because we've been jumping into that the last couple of months, and it's a little bit different game.
It is a totally different game.
So why don't we I'm going to ask you right out of the gate, let's go through how you are keeping clients like engaged on the call when you start.
Right on, man. Well, first, thank you guys for having me. This is going to be a ton of fun, because when you're in it, you learn so much. So people ask, like, why are you doing telesales or working these different lead types? I'm like, well, you want to keep up with everything. You want to know what's new. You don't want to be like, well, 10 years ago we used to do this. 8 years ago it used to be like this. I'm like, yeah, well, things change. And the things that we're going to talk about today are things that, dude, I've really learned the last 3-4 months, and learning still. And so keeping clients engaged, it's huge. In person, you keep them engaged. You're at their house. Like, I'm here. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to forget I'm here, right?
Yep.
Like, you give me some water. You can be polite. There's a lot. Take my shoes off. There's a lot of things to engage face to face. So how do you do that over the phone? Okay. And I think a lot of the times we get into a script, right? And then we just start reading the script, and the clients can get, well, they kind of go to sleep on you. And then you're getting through all the way through the script. The next thing you know, you're like, all right, yeah, so here's the part where we're going to get into the application. We're going to do this. That you've done everything exactly the script says, but you lost them and they hung up. How many times, Easton, have you been, when you started doing and still to this day, you're just like, where'd they go? Like, where'd they go? And you can't get back in touch with them. You try to call them. You're like, man, I thought we had such this great connection. Well, the thing is that you were very connected to your script, but not to the person, right? And as you're on the phone, you really have to be engaged with the client by checking in with them. I think in a lot of our scripts, there's not that check-in moment. Like, hey, does that make sense? Are you with me? Are you paying attention to their tonality? Are they responding to your questions? Yeah. Are they? Yeah, that really makes sense. Like, now you know, but if I'm taking the yaps as I can move on to the next engagement step, that's where I'm going to get lost. And in person, you can see body language. You can see if the guy's like this. Well, dude, little do you know, you might be on the phone. It could be muted. They're over there talking to their son playing soccer, and and you're just going through your deal, right? How do you? So read their tonality, okay? And check in with them. And what's their tonality when you're checking in with them? I think those are two things that you can do off the rip. That now also, I think a lot of overcome objections are preventing downfalls in any sales process is getting ahead of them. Okay. So if I know that when we start getting into banking, we start getting into personal information, that sometimes clients get weird. Okay. Why don't I just say that initially? Why don't I say, hey, here's my state license? Because I think when we're doing all telesales, everybody shoots over their state license, their NPN. If you're not doing, like, you have to do that. Okay, if you're getting straight into it, that's the big problem right there. Okay, so you have got to send that over to them and slow down. Here's my state license. Here's a link that takes you straight to the page that you can see it. Check in with them. Can you click on that? Can you see it? All right, great. There's no complaints on my name. I don't plan on starting today. Now, during this appointment, Easton, we're going to talk about some pretty personal things. Okay. I'm going to ask you for your social. We're going to talk about your kids. We're going to talk about what you want this to look like when you pass away. And sometimes, man, I get I'm a stranger. You just met me from Facebook, TikTok, the internet. I get it. But I'm going to need you to give me some feedback and when you're uncomfortable, and like not just hang up or just kind of disappear, because I know how it is, man. Can we agree on that? That if it gets uncomfortable, you can check in with me, and I'm not going to try to push you. Be clear. This is your plan. This is your family. I'm just here to facilitate it because I have the license. Is that fair?
Dude, I think giving them the concept of like, hey, I'm in charge while you're still in control of the appointment,
Yes.
dude, that's how it's a dual win, both parties.
Correct.
So they won't be as uncomfortable making a decision.
Yes. It's like, but let's just let them know up front that it can get uncomfortable. And actually, it will get uncomfortable. A lot of times for me, it's going to be uncomfortable for me. And let them know that. And I think once you let them know that, it's not to say they're not going to hang up on you. Be clear that you're not going to run into these, but you're going to be very clear that you did everything you could do. Right? And I remember being in the field and being like, how do I stop no-shows? I'm like, dude, Sean would be like, dude, you don't stop them. You just kind of negate them.
Yep.
You know what makes sense? You do like just less of them. Like if you were in 10 appointments and you had, 3 show up, maybe now I can teach you something to get 5 or 6 to show up. But I don't know if I can teach you how to get 9 to 10 to show up. And the same thing here. But if across the board we're letting all of our clients know, what if that brings us 10, 50% closer to more 10, 15% more sales? You know what I mean? That maybe wouldn't have happened. Now, in every appointment, is it necessary to do it? I say yes. Is it? I think when it comes to sales, Easton, and these things that you may not be talking to the person who's unengaged or wants to hang up on you, but if you don't do it to everybody, you're going to miss the ones who are. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I think that's the part of this to where it's like, well, everybody is not like that. And I remember Eric Schmidt I got from him, are you good at keeping your appointments?
Yep.
I got that from him. And I was like, dude, everybody's like, I heard it and I was like, that's kind of offensive.
Right? A little forward.
Does that make sense? But then I started going, no, it's not. Like it's the ones who answer yes. Now his show rate, he's like, dude, now my show ratio is 60, 70%. When before I wasn't asking that and it was 30, 40%. And I'm like, so just ask it across the board so I can be at 60 or 70. Make sense?
So. 100% makes sense. Let's go to, you were talking about structure a little bit, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about. And I think it's more important in telesales than in-home. Yes. Like you always, when you're selling, you have to have structure because you can get in front of the objections. But dude, when you're in a home, you can struggle your way through and still come out with an application, family served, again, dual win. If you have no set concept of structure on the phone, you are definitely going to lose people you don't need to lose just because they don't know the expectations of what's going to take place.
Right.
Again, who you are, what your job is. And I will never take credit for this because I can't remember who I stole it from. But I was trying to figure out on how to pivot from, asking them, I'm going to need your social and your bank stuff. And I didn't know how to segue that part of the appointment. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, who's the best at examples that I've ever worked with is John Wetmore.
Yes.
So, and it could have been him that, said this in a different concept, but the dealership example. So like, hey, Dom, when you go to a dealership, they're going to ask you on this insurance application all the same stuff as like when you go to buy a car, right? So they're going to need your driver's license, date of birth, social, all the bank information, all the stuff that you're going to use to buy a car. They're going to do the same stuff except for they don't check your credit. Does that make sense? So now, if we get that far, Dom, once I've already set up like, this is my job, this is what we're going to do today, I'm going to ask you these questions, figure out a company, figure out a plan, having that segue of, hey, you bought a car before? Most people have. Dude, it's the same stuff. Driver's license, date of birth, social, bank you're going to use to pay. They're going to ask you for all the same stuff. So if we get that far, do you have access to that information? And are you comfortable giving it to me? Because they are going to ask. And like that was my bridge of not making it awkward. Because I didn't know how to get through that part of the appointment. And then people are like, yeah, I'm not giving you that ever, just so you know. Because I don't know who you are, even though they got my license now, because I took care of that up front. That is the best thing that I could think of to kind of tie that in. And again, 105% sure I took that from someone.
Right.
But if you don't have any other way to bridge the gap, that structure piece has been the thing that's worked the best for me.
Dude, it's massive. It's massive. You got to set the table. Now, where's that falling in? All right.
So I always do an intro, why, structure, close. Like introduce myself. Hey, I'm Easton. Do you got a pen and paper really quick in about 15 minutes so I can go through this with you?
Okay.
If we have that verbal exchange agreement that I validated their info and they're good to go, then I want to dig into some why a little bit. Like, why is it important to you? Because that's how you're avoiding the objections at the end, is getting into that why. Okay. So You know, who's in charge? Where do they live? What do they do for work? Tell me about them a little bit. Did you have a recent experience? Just kind of rapid fire a few different things and then sit and listen and pay attention to the responses. Engage. If you engage with them, they'll engage with you back, and then you can have an actual appointment. So once I've got through intro and why, my structure is, hey, my job is super easy. I'm going to basically do underwriting for like 40 companies, you know, 30 or 40 of them, something like that. All insurance is state regulated, so they're all about the same price anyway. What I do is ask you a little handful of suitability questions. So age, income, house, health, current insurance, same stuff that's on our client worksheet. And I say, I'm going to go ahead and shop around all these companies. Once I've isolated a company, Dom, you're going to custom build out your own plan.
Love it.
And then once you've built out your own plan and I find a company that I think is a good match, we have to send them in a request for coverage to make sure that you can actually get the green light for what you're asking for. Now, if we get that far, just like when you go to a dealership, and then that's when I insert that piece.
Hell yeah. Okay.
So
that's awesome.
And then once they give me the feedback of, oh yeah, all good, that's what I expected, or like, yep, doesn't make sense to me, like the appointment is done. Now it's carrier price.
That's it.
But everything else is, I told them I need the sensitive information. I made sure they had access to it. Are you comfortable giving it to me? Because they are going to ask you. I don't need anything, but the insurance company does if you want to get approved. So that does negate a lot of objections that you will get as far as, I don't want to give you that stuff.
You know what's beautiful about this before you even got to that point? There's nothing to do with insurance before that. Like, this is like if you're like a new agent, right? And you're a new agent, or you said, you know what, I may not be a new agent, but dude, I want to get into this thing and I want to ratchet it up a little bit. All you got to do is really study, what is your intro? How do you introduce yourself? How are you letting them know, here's my state license? What's your transition to shooting them over the text? And what's your transition to the why you're here? Like, what's my job while I'm here, and why are you here? And listen. Key thing I wrote down was listen, dude. Sit back and listen. And then from there, we're going to help you custom build your plan, and here's the expectations of what's going to happen next. Dude, if you can set that up, and how much time, how do you practice that? Give us some ways. I don't want to get too down, but I think this is big. Because we can get into the product, because it doesn't matter if your final expense, if you're doing internet lead, if you're doing mortgage lead. This is the same for every single opening of a telesale. Fair to say?
Yep. For all of them.
How do you practice this?
So you should always be doing role plays, which Joe Basso was just talking about last week, by the way, like this past Monday. He was just talking about that, doing role plays. Big 10-minute timer, dude. So give yourself like 10 minutes to really practice introing yourself, asking, your manager or a fellow agent. Like, dude, nothing is more valuable than having two new agents role play with each other and then record it, listen, and then practice again. Like, having small groups of new people with like a manager oversight, I guess, like someone who's heard all the objections before, go through that, set a timer for 10 minutes and make sure that it takes you 10 minutes to introduce yourself, ask the why questions, do a little digging, and set some structure. Because if you can do that for 10 minutes on repeat, this is how you get paid. This is the part that you cannot miss, especially over the phone. So I would just put that on repeat and record yourself, dude. I'll never forget. I recorded myself and I didn't even have to set it to John because I listened to it and I was like, wow, that's rough. I did anyway because he had to hear it. It was hilarious.
Dude,
okay.
This is huge. I love it.
What do you think?
Dude,
tracking?
Yeah, they're tracking great, man. I got a question for you, man. Budget. All right. It doesn't fit into my budget. Objections. All right. How do you identify the budget off the rip, or do you let clients tell you based on their needs what they want, and then you identify? How's that work for you?
So part of our client worksheet is going through their income and their expenses. I always do a soft budget in every single appointment, no matter what, where I'm getting big major primary bills. So I already know the numbers that I'm showing them. I know that they can afford it. And the simple rule just to start is keep it 10% under their income. Like if they make $2, $3, $4 a month, 4, 3, 2, that you should never be more than that when you're starting, just to give yourself a baseline. So if they're like, I want $100,000 and I'm 74 and I want some term, and then you look and it's $800, like, dude, maybe figure out how to downsell that fast, because that's not going to be a good option for their budget. So if I'm working, I think especially with retired seniors is where I see people struggle, is they're like, well, we're not day one decision makers and we really need to hash out our budget anyway. I'm like, got it. So Dom, let's see, you're 73. So what did you retire? Like 60, 62, 65?
65.
65. So you have been retired for what, 7 years?
Yep.
So been on a fixed or regulated income about the last 7 years?
Yep.
So safe to say to the penny, you kind of know what's typically going in and out every single month since that doesn't change much?
Yep.
Got it. So Dom, out of these three, knowing that your budget's been the same for the last 7 years, out of these three, which one do you think is a minimum enough to start where Mary's going to have enough that's easier for you guys every month? And I'm just going to do that circle, dude, until they'll give me an honest answer. Because it has nothing to do with them not going there, knowing their budget. And if even I show them something that I know that they can afford, maybe they just don't want to pay. So I'll just ask them. Like, okay, so even the one on the bottom here is 150. It should be well within your month to month. Do you just not really want to like pay that much? Or is it just not enough value? Because I can tweak this and change it to whatever you guys think is affordable, that you're comfortable with. That's easy. But I just need to know, I know you can afford these three. Do you just not want to pay that much? He's like, I'd rather just pay $100. Okay, dude, problem solved. Let's proceed. And then we're good. So that's the kind of like my way around the retired budget seniors issue.
Retire. Okay. So let's take it to the younger client. All right. Let's say sub 40. Fair? Sub 40, 45. Okay. A lot of the times what I'm seeing in those age ranges is when it comes to budget, it's typically they want more insurance or they think they need more. And it's typically the client who has none. Okay. It's typically not the client who already has insurance who's going, oh, the budget. Because clients who already have insurance, they understand it. Actually, that's another side piece. I love when clients already have insurance.
The best.
That used to be like my arch. I used to be like, oh my God, I got to fight. I'm like, no, it's like, dude, they already know, like, they know it comes out of the bank account. They know how it works. They get it. They get that they got it 10 years ago. They're younger. They're older. It's the best thing ever. So, but when the clients are younger, it's typically you just have to really get them into the game, okay? Because before, when you're 25, 30 years old, 35 years old, you're thinking, well, first off, I ain't going to die like that, okay? But hey, dude, if I'm gonna do it, I need me like a milli, right? I need me like $1 million or $500,000 of insurance, okay? It's the mortgage lead. They're 30 years old. They got a $500,000 mortgage. You got to talk to them of why 250 is going to solve the solution for them. All right, solve the problem for them, which is they don't want to lose the house. All right, the problem wasn't you want to pay off the house. The problem was you're the sole provider, or you guys dual income. Without one income, you guys are screwed. We got to really get down to the problem. So when they say that, it's not they can't afford it. It's that they want more, right? Or that they think it's that they can't afford it, right? But they think that they want more. So they can't afford the 200 grand, maybe not the 500 grand. So you showed them 200 grand, right? For $200. And they go, nah, that's not, I don't want to do that. Right? I can't fit that into my budget. Well, you know they can, right? What they're really saying is, dude, I really want I want to cover the whole mortgage. Okay? I want to cover the whole mortgage. So, or I want to have $400,000 to go to my kids instead of 200 grand. Why? Because that's just what I had in my mind. You know what I mean? So you really got to talk to them about something is better than nothing. All right? I don't want to leave folks uninsured, and I do that before the objection comes up, all right? So a lot of the times with these objections, you're going to be talking to people, you're going to set the table. Hey, most of my clients, all right, typically do this, okay? A lot of my clients, when they first get into this, all right, they say, man, I want X, Y, or Z, and they really realize that really what they need is really this. Wants and needs are completely different when it comes to insurance, and I get them to agree with me. Right? And I go, hey, at 30 years old, 500 grand, dude, your mortgage is going down, right? Like by the time you're 35, 40 years old, how much is it going to be then? Be less, man. All right. And the thing about this insurance, it stays level forever. All right. Not saying you're not going to need it, but man, use your money while you're alive. All right. Use your money. I don't want you going insurance poor. I don't want you spending all your money on insurance. Use your money while you're alive and let the death benefit go over to your kids. But if you're spending all your money on insurance that you don't necessarily need, then that's where I'm trying to help you out. Now you come in as the sales guy or girl who's really showing them, hey, dude, you don't even need all of that. And I get paid on commission, by the way. I share stuff like that. Like I get paid on commission, by the way. So the more you spend, the better it is for me. but I don't sleep well at night knowing that I put people in a situation that they really don't need to be in. Now, could I make it sound real sexy to you and why this? Yes, I could, but I don't want to do that, man. Most people your age, they do this, and then we set up. I'm your agent for life, man. 6 months from now, we can revisit this. A year from now, we can revisit this. This isn't going to be the last time you get insurance. You're acting like insurance is a one and done thing. This is something we're going to revisit all the time. Every year, you're going to have more kids. You're going to get married. You may get divorced. There's things that are going to happen. Does that make sense? So let them know that. And I think the younger they are, the more education you should provide to them about the relationship you're going to have with them and how this isn't the end all be all today. Because I think that's the biggest reason why they don't want to move is because they're going, nah, dude, if I actually want more than that. But they don't realize that this is something that they can add on, build on, and it's not over just today. So,
dude, that concept of the worst thing that you guys can do is overspend on insurance instead of taking out something you can keep long term is huge, and it does build a lot of trust. Like the last thing that I want for you guys is to overstretch yourselves a little bit because you see the value. So then I'm still back on their side, like, oh, you guys didn't know the value. The last thing I want to do is to overspend for a short window of time and realize it was a little much, and then you get rid of it, and then something happens without anything. Right. That is huge. Let's do draft dates.
Yes.
Do you want to start with like the early part of the month?
Yeah. All right. So like give me an example.
So, hey, I'm on Social Security. I get paid the 3rd, and your appointment's on the 5th of the month. And they're like, yeah, this is awesome. I really needed this to start next month because I already spent my paycheck.
Okay. And I'm going to say, all right, so we're in that situation. I'll say, Easton, do I have your permission to be honest with you today?
Yep.
Okay. Today's the 5th. You got paid on the 3rd. Is that right? You said you needed to get it started next month. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that because, Easton, you don't have the money or you just don't want to spend the money this month?
I don't want to spend it.
You don't want to spend. I get you, dude. I don't want to go to the dentist either. But you want to have insurance, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm not going to sit here and make you think you're going to die tomorrow. Okay. But I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen different things happen. I've seen it happen. And is it worth $43 to go into next month for you? And if it is, we can revisit this, and I'll come back next month, dude, because I don't really feel that crazy comfortable with you having it and choosing not to spend it. So would it be back if I came back next month, or do you want to do it today?
No, I could make it work.
Okay, let's do it today.
Sweet.
You know, and now that can go different ways. You know, like that can go a different way. Now, let's go with the person who says they don't have it. Okay? It's the 3rd, it's the 5th, and now they don't have it, right?
Yeah.
Because the guy who has it, there's a difference. They just have it, and be honest, I wasn't strong when I started, so I wouldn't do that before. So they'd say, I don't want to spend it. I have it, but I don't want to. Or I wouldn't even ask. They would just say, can I start this next month? And I would go, yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, you can. Does that make sense? So be clear, there's levels to that response, right? Because there's no response. There's the yes response of yes, you can do it. There's challenging it a little bit, like we just did. But then there's also respond, you don't have it. Like, so it's the 5th, Easton. You say you don't have the money, or you just don't want to spend the money?
So you want me to be the client
you're
still?
You're the client now. You're still the client.
Oh, I don't have it.
You don't have it at all?
I don't have it at all.
All right, Easton, this is, I have your permission to be honest with you, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Today's the 5th, and you got paid on the 3rd. This premium is $68 a month, and you don't have $68 in that account. No?
No.
No. Okay. Do you have any money in that account?
Barely. Barely enough to eat.
Okay, so your beneficiary is your daughter. Okay. We should probably call her and let her know that you're getting insurance and that she's probably going to have to help you keep this going. Does she know that you're getting insurance for her?
No.
Because the only insurance, Easton, that's really going to matter is the one that's paid for. And if it's the first month and you got to wait 30 days to pay for it, I'm not saying you're that bad with your money and stuff, but who's to say over the next 12 months, 36 months, 48, like there's a long time before you die.
Yeah.
Like if you miss one of these payments, like, so I think you need somebody to help you out with this. So can we call your beneficiary and see if they'll help you out pay for this?
I like that a lot. Yes would be my answer.
You know, like let's And let's get out of the role play real quick, because this is where we got to not be so thirsty for the sale, okay? And really start going like, is this really gonna? I want to help Easton. I want to help them, right? But I also know they're gonna need some help keeping this thing afloat, right? And if they go, well, no, we don't want. Okay, well then now it's all right. So $68 is too much then. All right, we got 10 grand. All right, I understand you want to be buried, but you know what? If they get $5 grand, maybe they don't have to take out as much to bury you. But it's also something that's in force for you. So Easton, does $34 fit better than 68?
Dude, yes. Yeah, so some help is always better than none is a great place to start.
All right, let's start there, okay? Because so you have two situations. So you have the person who doesn't have the money, they just don't have enough. Or you have the person who doesn't have the money and they're just really bad with their money, okay? And we have to help them all. So that would be my response with those two.
I like it too. And if you don't have the money on the 5th and you get paid on the 3rd, like, how is this going to work out next month anyway?
Right.
You know, and like, hey, maybe it is just a little bit. And I don't think that people normally blow through their entire check. They're uncomfortable because the insurance payment's a little high. Right. So like, dude, if you can't pay for it now, how are you going to pay for it the 5th of next month? You know, well, if you take it out of I know, but if we take it out on the 3rd of next month, then you're still going to be in the problem where you're at the 5th with even less money.
Right.
You know, so why don't we just tweak it a little bit to give you some instead of none? Like that's big. Well, let's keep on time here, dude. We'll wrap up, but I love it. Thanks so much for coming in and
absolutely, dude,
and throwing some objections back and forth. I appreciate you.
Thanks,
appreciate you, dude.
Thank you, guys.